I think when you're in the highest level of a sport, of elite, you put a lot of pressure on yourself. I think we have, all of us, an obsessive personality that we always want more and it's never enough. So
The draw sheet hit the screen. One name stopped everything. Phones came out. Notifications fired across 3 continents. Filipino supporters who had been refreshing the Roland Garros website for hours saw it first. And what followed was not a reaction. It was a detonation. Alex Eala is in the French Open 2026 main draw. Not qualifying, not a wildcard conversation. The main draw, confirmed, seeded, dangerous. Walking into Paris carrying a career high of number 29, the highest any Filipino woman has ever stood in WTA history. Ranked 139 just 12 months ago. Somewhere in Madrid right now, Paula Badosa, clay court specialist, home continent favorite, genuine Grand Slam contender, is looking at that same draw sheet. Different expression entirely, because Badosa built this entire clay season around winning Roland Garros. She prepared for Swiatek. She prepared for Sabalenka. She did not prepare for a 20-year-old who beat the 4-time French Open champion at Miami, then made history at Dubai 72 hours after absorbing a brutal first-round loss in Doha. That version of Eala is crashing her tournament now. If you are not subscribed yet, do it before the first ball is struck, because what this draw has just set in motion is going to be unforgettable. To understand why Badosa specifically should be worried, you need to see the full season that led to this moment. Alex Eala entered 2026 ranked outside the top 30, not a household name globally, not yet a player that tournament directors built schedules around.
So Emma needs to be in charge. She's old enough to know what she should be doing and surround herself with people and then trust in them.
A young Filipino woman who had shown flashes of genuine brilliance but had not yet strung together the kind of sustained results that forced the tennis establishment to sit up and take her seriously. That changed in January. She arrived at the Australian Open carrying momentum from a strong end to 2025. The hard-court swing had given her confidence. Her movement had improved noticeably. Her serve, historically the weakest part of her game, the area her coach Arturo Bosch had flagged publicly as the primary development target, was holding up under pressure in ways it hadn't before. She won her first-round match without dropping a set, lost in the second round to a top 20 player in 3 tight sets. It was not a headline result, it was a foundational result, the kind that tells you a player is building towards something real. Then came Doha, first-round exit, 7-6, 6-1. A scoreline that looked worse than the match actually was, but a loss is a loss, and the tennis world noted it. Social media had its predictable 24-hour cycle of doubt. Questions about whether the ranking was real, whether the results were sustainable, whether Eala had the mental architecture to compete consistently at the top level week after week without collapsing under the weight of expectation. She answered every single one of those questions 3 days later. Dubai WTA 1000, one of the most competitive fields assembled outside a Grand Slam. Eala walked in ranked 41st in the world, fresh off a first-round loss, and proceeded to reach the quarterfinals. She beat players ranked above her. She won tight matches in conditions that do not forgive physical or mental lapses. And when she finally lost to Coco Gauff, the world number 4, she lost 6-0, 6-2 in a match that exposed genuine gaps in her game against elite ball striking from the baseline. Gauff did not just beat her, Gauff dismantled her, and what happened afterward is the detail most people missed entirely. Gauff walked to the net, shook hands, and then publicly acknowledged Eala's fanbase in her post-match press conference.
And yeah, thank you guys so much for the support and see you guys on Sunday.
I'd like to thank Alex for bringing a new demographic to the sport. That sentence came from the world number 4. Not from a sponsor, not from a broadcast team trying to generate content. From the player who had just beaten her 6-0, 6-2. That is the level of cultural impact Eala was generating before Miami even started. Miami changed everything permanently. The draw gave her Iga Swiatek in the quarterfinals. 4-time French Open champion, former world number one, the most dominant clay court player of her generation and a baseline operator who had made careers look small on hard courts too. Every analytical model had Swiatek winning comfortably. Every prediction column picked Swiatek. The match was framed as a measuring stick, a useful data point to understand how far Eala still had to go before she could genuinely compete at the very top. Eala won. The scoreline does not matter as much as what the victory proved. She had the tactical intelligence to construct points against the best player in the world on her best surface. She had the physical endurance to sustain that level across a full match without fading in the third. She had the composure to close it out when the pressure was at its absolute peak. That is not youth. That is not luck. That is a player who has figured out something real about how to compete. Her ranking moved, the tennis world moved with it. Career high of number 29 in March.
And not for the first time, almost beaten by the lack of pace on serve. So, victory.
The highest any Filipino woman had ever been ranked in WTA history. A number that would have seemed impossible 18 months earlier when she was sitting outside the top 100 trying to earn direct acceptance into WTA events. The fan reaction to all of this had been building for months, but Miami accelerated it into something genuinely unprecedented in Philippine sports history. Supporters were arriving at practice sessions before they were scheduled to start. Instagram was approaching 1 million followers. A veteran photographer who had spent decades covering Roland Garros, Wimbledon, and the US Open compared the crowd energy around her matches to what he had witnessed during the peak Federer and Nadal years. That comparison did not come from a Philippine publication.
We can be on it again in affirming the right of women and girls to sex-based spaces.
Trying to generate national pride content. It came from someone who had seen the real thing up close for 30 years. Tournament directors started making scheduling decisions with her matches in mind. Broadcasters adjusted their preview coverage. The WTA itself began promoting her results with a visibility that reflected genuine commercial interest rather than charitable inclusion. Now bring all of that into the context of Roland Garros. The French Open is the most physically demanding Grand Slam on the tour. Clay neutralizes raw power more than any other surface. It rewards movement, spin, mental endurance, and the ability to construct long points without losing tactical discipline. It punishes players who rely on pace alone. It exposes physical conditioning gaps that hard courts can hide for an entire set before the truth catches up. Eala's game is built for this surface in ways that are not immediately obvious. Her forehand generates heavy topspin. Her footwork improved significantly under Bosch through 2025 and into 2026, allows her to recover defensive positions and reset points that would end on a faster surface. Her ability to absorb pressure and stay in long rallies was on full display at Dubai and Miami. She does not panic when a match stretches. She does not tighten when the crowd turns against her.
Of course, we have to mention Eala, the incredible fandom coming, across the globe, especially from the Filipino community. So
those qualities matter enormously at Roland Garros, where matches can last 3 hours and the mental component is as decisive as the physical one. Her clay record coming into 2026 was modest but not alarming. A win at Linz, some early exits on the Hologic WTA Tour clay swing the previous year. The surface had not been the site of her most dramatic results. But the player who lost those early clay matches was ranked outside the top 60 and was still developing the physical tools to compete at that level. The player arriving at Roland Garros in 2026 is a different proposition entirely. Now consider Paula Badosa. Badosa is 27 years old, Spanish, born in New York but raised in Barcelona, which means clay is not just a surface for her, it is identity. She reached a career-high ranking of number 2 in the world in 2022 before injuries stripped 2 years from her career and forced her to rebuild from the ground up. She came back, she worked through the physical setbacks, she pushed her ranking back into the top 20 and arrived at the 2026 clay season as a genuine contender at every event she entered. Her relationship with Roland Garros is complicated in the way that only deeply personal sporting ambitions can be. She has the game for it. She has the surface. She has the experience of playing in front of European crowds who understand clay tennis at a level that hard-court audiences simply do not. What she has not done is win it. The title has stayed just out of reach in the years when her body cooperated and vanished entirely during the injury period. This clay season, she came in healthy, focused. Madrid was circled on the calendar, Roland Garros was circled harder, then the draw dropped. The specific draw position matters here. Without the confirmed bracket available at the time of writing, a broader point stands regardless of exact placement. Eala is in the main draw. She is seeded. The mathematics of a 128-player Grand Slam draw means that a potential meeting between them is entirely plausible from the third round onward. Badosa knows this, every player in the draw knows this, because Eala is no longer the kind of opponent you can approach with comfortable assumptions about how the match will go. 12 months ago, a draw against Eala was manageable, expected, a match you prepared for briefly and moved past. Today, it is a match you prepare for the way you prepare for Swiatek, with film sessions, with tactical adjustments, with the full awareness that if you underestimate her for 40 minutes, she will take the set and the momentum with it, and you will spend the rest of the match trying to recover ground you cannot get back. That shift in how opponents perceive her is arguably the most significant development of her 2026 season. Rankings change, results happen, but the moment the locker room starts treating you as a genuine threat rather than an interesting story, that is when a career turns a corner it does not come back from.
Does really well, and I think there's a lot of things that make her opponents feel very uncomfortable.
Badosa is not the only player in this draw with reason to recalibrate, but she is the most symbolically loaded opponent when you consider the title of this conversation. A Spanish clay court specialist, a player who has rebuilt her career against a serious physical adversity, a genuine contender who knows this surface better than almost anyone in the women's draw. And now she is sharing a bracket with a 20-year-old Filipino player whose fan base fills stadiums before the warm-up even starts. The crowd dimension cannot be dismissed as a peripheral detail. Roland Garros has a long history of responding to players who carry genuine cultural movements behind them. The French crowds understand drama, they understand history, they respond to players who represent something larger than a ranking number. Eala walks into Paris as the most followed Filipino athlete in WTA history, carrying the weight of a nation that has been waiting for this moment for decades. That energy inside Court Philippe Chatrier or Court Suzanne Lenglen is not neutral. It is a factor. It affects opponents. It affects momentum. It affects the way a tight third set feels when the crowd is not splitting its support evenly. Badosa has played in front of hostile crowds before. She is mentally experienced enough to handle it. But there is a difference between a crowd that cheers your opponent and a crowd that has flown from Manila to Paris specifically to witness a historic moment. That specific intensity is something even the most experienced players find difficult to absorb without it registering somewhere in their decision-making under pressure. The French Open 2026 has not started yet. The first ball has not been struck. Every prediction made right now is provisional. Clay has a way of humbling players who arrive with momentum from hard courts, and Eala's clay record does not yet carry the depth of evidence that would make any rational analyst install her as a favorite for the title. But that is not the story. The story is that she is here, in the main draw, seeded, prepared, backed by a fan base that has turned every tournament she enters into an event, carrying a ranking that 12 months ago would have required a complete suspension of disbelief to imagine. Having already beaten the player who has won this specific tournament 4 times, Paula Badosa has spent her entire career preparing for Roland Garros. She has earned that preparation. She deserves that ambition. Nothing about what is happening to her narrative right now is unfair or manufactured. It is simply the reality of a draw that now contains a player who crashed into the top of women's tennis so fast and so completely that even the people tracking her rise did not fully anticipate the speed of it.
Say what I really felt, which is about what I think she would be. I think you're referring to the fact that I said she'd be about 700 in the world?
Yeah.
Right. The French Open 2026 just got a story it did not know it needed. And it starts the moment Alex Eala walks onto that clay. If you made it this far and you are not subscribed yet, hit that button right now. Every match Eala plays at Roland Garros will be covered on this channel with full context, full analysis, and zero hype that is not backed by real information. Share this with every tennis fan and every Filipino sports supporter you know. Drop in the comments. How far do you think Eala goes at the French Open 2026? Quarterfinal? Semifinal? Further? The conversation in the comments on this one is going to be worth reading. Do not miss it.